Stop right there. Before you call every relationship a blessing, before you call every open conversation divine, before you call every smiling face a gift from God, you better discern what that person is carrying. Some people are not attacks against your body. They are delays against your assignment. They will not stab you. They will distract you. They will not curse you. They will confuse you. They will not destroy your destiny in one dramatic moment. No, that would be too obvious. All they need is unauthorized access to your decisions. You must understand this. Favor is not always blocked because God changed his mind. Sometimes favor is delayed because you gave access to the wrong person. God can open a door, but if you keep dragging the wrong atmosphere with you, you will hesitate at the threshold. You will question what God already confirmed. You will negotiate with what God already commanded. You will call it wisdom, but it is fair. You will call it loyalty, but it is bondage. You will call it being nice, but it is disobedience wearing polite clothing. Relationships are not casual connections. They are spiritual environments. People do not enter your life empty. They carry beliefs. They carry appetites. They carry fears. They carry motives. They carry habits. They carry atmospheres. When you give somebody access to your ear, you've given them access to your imagination. When you give somebody access to your confidence, you've given them access to your movement. When you give somebody access to your decisions, you have allowed their spirit to sit at the table where your assignment is being discussed. That is why you can be praying for open doors while refusing to close the doors that are draining your peace, confusing your identity, and weakening your obedience. You are asking God to accelerate you, but you keep entertaining people who make you doubt the road. You are asking God to strengthen you, but you keep sitting with voices that feed the weakness he is trying to deliver you from. You are asking God for clarity, but you keep inviting confusion to comment on your calling. Now, do not misunderstand me. This is not about blaming people for your choices. This is not about becoming suspicious, cold, arrogant, or isolated. That is not discernment. That is injury pretending to be wisdom. This teaching is about auditing access. It is about asking, who has been given authority to influence my decisions? Who has been allowed to touch my confidence? Who has been shaping my direction? Who do I consult before I obey God? Who can delay me with one opinion, one mood, one accusation, one moment of unbelief? Wrong people do not have to hate you to hinder you. Some people love you at the level of who you used to be, but they do not have the capacity to honor who God is making you. They are comfortable with your history, but threatened by your future. They know your personality, but they do not understand your assignment. And if you let people who do not understand your assignment interpret your season, they will call preparation, pride, separation, rejection, discipline, extremism, and obedience foolishness. If this word is already making you examine your circle, stay with it. Because this may be the moment God uses to restore your discernment. Receive it with humility. Do not receive it with defensiveness. Do not start naming everybody else before you examine yourself. Let the word search you first. And if it is helping you guard your purpose, support the message so someone else can be reminded to choose people prayerfully. Because here's the truth. You must settle early. Before God gives you new favor, he often corrects old access. Your assignment must choose your associations. Not your insecurity, not your loneliness, not your appetite for approval. Your assignment. Before you decide who gets close to you, you must first decide who God created you to be. Identity comes before intimacy. Design comes before connection. Purpose comes before partnership. If you do not know why you were created, you will let anybody define where you belong. You are not manufactured by accident. You were designed by a creator with intention, with precision, with an assignment in mind. And nothing made with purpose can be managed correctly by someone who does not understand its design. Put a crown in the hands of a fool, and he will use it like decoration. Put oil in the hands of the careless, and they will spill what was meant to consecrate. Put your presence in the hands of people who do not honor your purpose, and they will misuse access they were never qualified to carry. That is why your purpose is too specific to be surrounded by people who only understand your personality, but not your assignment. They may know what makes you laugh, but do they know what makes you responsible? They may know your habits, but do they honor your holiness? They may know your history, but can they discern your future? They may enjoy your company, but can they protect your calling? Do not confuse familiarity with alignment. Familiarity knows your name. Alignment honors your assignment. Popularity asks, who likes me? Purpose asks, who strengthens what God placed in me? Popularity wants a crowd. Purpose needs agreement. Popularity is addicted to applause. Purpose is committed to obedience. Popularity will let you collect people who celebrate your personality while weakening your discipline. Purpose will force you to choose people who may not flatter you, but they will help form you. You do not need more people clapping for your comfort. You need people who can discern when your destiny is being compromised. Now hear me carefully. Every relationship is feeding something. It is either feeding your future or feeding your old nature. It is either strengthening your obedience or strengthening your rebellion. It is either sharpening your discernment or dulling your sensitivity. There is no neutral influence when destiny is involved. You cannot keep sitting in the wrong atmosphere and expect the right appetite to survive. You cannot keep walking with people who feed your old language, old lusts, old fears, old wounds, old excuses, and then wonder why your new season feels heavy. Some of you are not confused. You are connected. You know what God said, but you keep giving emotional authority to people who need you to stay the same so they can remain comfortable. You know what God required, but you keep asking permission from people who benefited from your dysfunction. You know the standard has changed, but you keep lowering it because you are afraid of being alone. And let me tell you something. If loneliness can make you lower your standards, then loneliness has become your master. That is a hard word, but it is a necessary word. Because many wrong associations do not enter through rebellion, they enter through need. The need to be seen, the need to be affirmed, the need to be included, the need to be rescued, the need to be admired, the need to be understood. And when a need is not surrendered to God, it becomes an open door for the wrong person to walk through. They do not have to be assigned by God if they can appeal to an unhealed place in you. This is why you must stop letting hunger choose your circle. Hunger will make you call poison provision. Hurt will make you call attention love. Rejection will make you call control protection. Insecurity will make you call dependency loyalty. But purpose demands sobriety. Purpose says, I cannot afford to be handled by people who only want access to my weakness but have no respect for my assignment. Do not misunderstand me. Love is not the same as access. You can love people and still not let them lead your emotions. You can forgive people and still not let them shape your decisions. You can honor people and still not let them interpret your calling. Boundaries are not hatred. Boundaries are stewardship. You are not being cruel when you protect what God entrusted to you. You are being faithful. Jesus loved the multitude, but he did not give the multitude the same access as the 12. He loved the 12, but he did not give the 12 the same access as the 3. Access was not based on popularity. Access was based on assignment. If the Son of God practiced selective access, who told you that you are spiritual because everybody can reach you? You must let your assignment become a filter. Not everybody who wants to walk with you can walk close. Not everybody who likes your gift can handle your discipline. Not everybody who enjoys your presence can steward your future. You are not looking for people who merely tolerate your purpose. You are looking for people whose fruit agrees with your future, whose spirit produces peace, whose counsel strengthens obedience, whose presence calls you higher. Once you know your assignment, the next question is not who wants to be near you, but who has been approved by God to influence you. And this is why prayer must stand at the gate before people enter your life with influence. Prayer is not what you do after the damage has been done. Prayer is what you do before access is granted. Too many people are asking God to heal relationships He never told them to choose. They are asking God to bless connections He never approved. They are asking God to give peace in a place where He already gave warning. Stop calling it warfare. when it is the consequence of ignoring discernment. Prayer is the gatekeeper of access, not emotion, not chemistry, not loneliness, not opportunity. Prayer. Because prayer slows down what your appetite wants to rush. Prayer makes you ask questions your feelings are trying to avoid. Prayer brings God into decision before your heart builds a contract with somebody your spirit has not approved. Look at Jesus. Before he chose the 12, he prayed. Let that humble you. The Son of God did not treat access casually. He had a divine mission, perfect wisdom, clear identity, and still he prayed before selecting who would walk close. If Jesus prayed before choosing, who told you that you can choose based on a good conversation, a shared interest, an attractive personality, or one season of emotional comfort? Chemistry can introduce a person, but discernment must approve their influence. Attraction is not assignment. Excitement is not confirmation. Similarity is not covenant. Just because someone makes you feel understood does not mean they are assigned to your future. Some people understand your pain because they live in the same prison, not because they are called to help you walk out of it. That is where many people miss it. They choose while wounded. And pain is a poor counselor. Loneliness is a dangerous recruiter. Desperation has no discernment. When you are bleeding, you can mistake a bandage for a blessing. When you are lonely, you can give kingdom access to anyone who makes you feel wanted. When you are desperate, you stop asking, is this person sent by God? And start asking, will this person stay? But not everyone who stays strengthens you. Not everyone who listens loves you. Not everyone who is available is assigned. Availability without accountability can become a trap. An open personality is not always an open door from God. Some people are open because they have no boundaries, no discipline, no reverence for your future, and no fear of mishandling your purpose. Prayer brings light. Prayer exposes motives. Prayer reveals patterns. Prayer uncovers inconsistencies. Prayer shows you the hidden cost of connection. In prayer, God will let you feel the weight behind a smile. He will let you notice what your excitement ignored. He will let you hear the contradiction between their words and their fruit. He will show you whether this person produces peace or pressure, obedience or confusion, focus or distraction. So before you attach, pray. Before you confide, pray. Before you partner, pray. Before you call somebody in a circle, pray. Ask God, Lord, why is this person in my life? Ask Him, what are they producing in me? Ask Him, do they draw me closer to obedience or closer to confusion? Ask Him, am I ignoring peace because I want companionship? These questions will save you years. They will save you from giving permanent access to people who were only meant to be temporary lessons. Some people came to reveal a weakness, not to become a covenant. Some people came to expose a pattern, not to become a partner. Some people came to teach you discernment, not to travel with you into destiny. Do not be angry when prayer interrupts your preference. That interruption may be mercy. God may be protecting your future from your feelings. He may be protecting your assignment from your appetite. He may be protecting your peace from a person who looks harmless but carries disorder. You must become mature enough to let God veto what you wanted. You must become submitted enough to say, Lord, if you do not approve this access, I will not force it. Because when you pray before you choose, God does not only show you who people are, He shows you who you become around them. And one of the first signs God will use to reveal proper alignment is peace. Not excitement, not attention, not constant activity. Peace. You must stop treating peace like weakness. Peace is not weakness. Peace is not passivity. Peace is not the absence of personality. Peace is not always comfort. Sometimes peace is the security system of purpose. It is the inner witness that says, this belongs here, or this does not belong near you. Excitement can be produced by attention. Peace is produced by alignment. Somebody can flatter you and disturb you. Somebody can pursue you and poison you. Somebody can make you feel wanted and still make you feel unsafe in your spirit. Do not confuse stimulation with confirmation. Do not confuse intensity with intimacy. Do not confuse constant emotion with divine connection. Some relationships are loud because there is no order in them. Some connections are dramatic because they have no peace to govern them. Anything that consistently destroys your peace should not be trusted to guide your purpose. Let that settle in your spirit. If every time you speak to them, you leave confused, drained, defensive, and spiritually heavy, something is speaking louder than God's order. If every time you share what God is doing, you feel the need to shrink, explain, apologize, or hide, that is not alignment. That is an atmosphere trying to manage your obedience. Wrong relationships disturb inner order. They make you second-guess instructions that were clear before they entered the conversation. They make you apologize for growth. They make you feel guilty for discipline. They make you hide convictions God gave you openly. They make you explain your assignment to people committed to misunderstanding it. And hear me carefully. When someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no amount of explanation will deliver them from their resistance. You are wasting oil trying to convince people who benefit from your uncertainty. You are exhausting language trying to persuade people who are not confused. They are opposed. Some people ask questions not because they want clarity, but because they want control. They keep interrogating what God told you until you start treating obedience like arrogance. They keep challenging your boundaries until you start calling conviction pride. That is not counsel. That is disturbance. Now, here is where people get confused. They say, but every relationship has difficulty. Yes, but not every difficult relationship is a divine test. Some are distractions you are supposed to discern. Do not develop a theology that makes you endure what God told you to exit. Do not call every conflict a cross. Do not call every attack a classroom. Some pressure builds you. Some pressure bends you out of obedience. Some fire refines you. Some fire was started by people who have no fear of burning down your peace. Peace is better than popularity. Alignment is better than attention. Obedience is better than emotional dependence. I know you want to be liked. I know you want to be understood. I know you want people to stay. But if keeping them costs you your clarity, your sleep, your prayer life, your confidence, and your sensitivity to God, the price is too high. You are not being loving. You are being drained. You are not being loyal. You are being managed. You are not protecting a relationship. You are surrendering your inner government. Stop confusing chaos with passion. Some of you call it deep because it is dramatic. You call it powerful because it is intense. You call it love because it takes all your energy. No. A relationship that constantly pulls you out of peace is not proof of death. It may be proof of bondage. If you have to lose yourself to keep access, that access has become an idol. If you have to silence your convictions to maintain connection, that connection has become a chain. If you have to disobey God to keep somebody close, you have already chosen the wrong authority. God's peace does not always mean everything around you is easy. It means there is order within you while you obey. Peace is not the absence of challenge. Peace is the presence of divine agreement. You can be walking through a hard season and still have peace. You can be making a difficult decision and still have peace. You can be separating from familiar people and still have peace. Why? Because peace does not come from everybody approving you. Peace comes from knowing heaven agrees with your obedience. That is why boundaries are sacred. Boundaries are not selfish. Boundaries are how purpose protects its oxygen. Without oxygen, fire dies. Without boundaries, purpose suffocates. You cannot keep giving access to people who contaminate the atmosphere God is using to develop you. You cannot keep letting every voice breathe on your assignment. Some people do not need an explanation. They need distance. Some conversations do not need another chance. They need a boundary. Protect your peace like it is your most valuable possession, because it is. A distracted spirit cannot discern well. A restless mind cannot build well. A wounded heart cannot choose well. If the enemy cannot stop your calling, he will try to surround it with noise until you can no longer hear God clearly. So guard the atmosphere. Guard the inner witness. Guard the quiet place where God confirms direction. And once you recognize peace as evidence, you must learn the difference between counsel that sharpens you and commentary that drains you. Counsel is not just somebody talking. Counsel is wisdom coming from a life that carries weight. Counsel comes from people who respect your assignment, who have character when nobody is watching, who can tell you the truth without trying to own you, and who help you obey God more clearly. That is counsel. Counsel sharpens you. Counsel steadies you. Counsel corrects you without crushing you. Counsel does not flatter your weakness. It strengthens your obedience. Commentary is different. Commentary is noise from people who want access to your process without responsibility for your outcome. They want to speak, but they do not want to carry. They want to evaluate, but they do not want to build. They want to criticize the blueprint, but they have never laid a foundation. Be careful who you let speak over unfinished work. Everybody has an opinion, but not everybody has authority. Everybody can talk, but not everybody can cover. Show your blueprint to builders, not critics. A builder may correct the plan, but he corrects it because he wants the structure to stand. A critic attacks the plan because your building reminds him he stopped building. Counsel sharpens you. Commentary scatters you. Counsel corrects with love. Commentary criticizes with appetite. Counsel protects your future. Commentary feeds your fear. Do not confuse a loud opinion with a wise voice. Volume is not wisdom. Familiarity is not wisdom. Age is not always wisdom. Access is not always wisdom. Wisdom is proven by fruit. Some of you are bleeding confidence because you exposed purpose too early to people who had no grace to handle it. You told them what God whispered before the thing had roots. You showed them the seed and expected them to celebrate the tree. No. Some people cannot bless what they did not birth. They cannot honor what they did not carry. They cannot understand the pain of conception, the patience of development, the discipline of hidden growth. So when you show them the seed, they mock it because they have no vision for harvest. And hear me carefully. The seed stage is fragile. The root stage is hidden. The beginning of purpose rarely looks impressive. It looks small. It looks inconvenient. It looks uncertain to people who only respect finished products. Wrong people will attack the process because they only understand the product. They will mock the seed because they cannot see the tree. They will laugh at the foundation because they cannot imagine the building. But if you let their laughter enter your imagination, you will start uprooting what God told you to water. That is why premature exposure is dangerous. When you share purpose with the wrong person too early, you invite their insecurity into your imagination. You start hearing their doubt while you pray. You start seeing their face while you plan. You start editing your obedience to make it acceptable to people who were never assigned to confirm it. Their fear becomes your hesitation. Their limitation becomes your ceiling. Their unbelief becomes a voice in your own head. That is not counsel. That is contamination. Do not misunderstand me. You need correction. You need accountability. You need wise voices. Nobody mature rejects counsel. But counsel must come from people who fear God more than they enjoy access to you. Counsel must come from people who can discern the difference between your flesh and your future. Counsel must come from people who are not jealous of your obedience, threatened by your growth, or entertained by your struggle. A true counselor does not need you confused so they can feel important. A true counselor helps you hear God, not become dependent on them. You do not owe everybody an explanation of your process. You do not owe everybody a preview of your next season. You do not owe everybody access to the private place where God is forming your assignment. Stop announcing everything. Stop discussing everything. Stop letting people vote on instructions God gave you in secret. Some instructions must be obeyed before they are explained. Some seasons must be protected before they are understood. Some growth must happen quietly before it can survive publicly. Reduce access without hatred. You do not have to be dramatic. You do not have to make a speech. You do not have to post a declaration. You do not need to announce every boundary, defend every withdrawal, or explain every season of silence. Maturity does not always make noise. Sometimes maturity simply stops feeding what keeps draining focus. Sometimes obedience looks like answering less, sharing less, explaining less, and praying more. Silence is not always weakness. Silence can be stewardship. If a person only knows how to comment but never knows how to cover, limit access. If they only know how to question but never know how to pray, limit access. If they only know how to criticize but never know how to build, limit access. Your assignment is too valuable to be handled by careless mouths. Your confidence is too important to be placed in the hands of people who are hungry for information but empty of responsibility. Guard the blueprint. Guard the seed. Guard the early obedience. Builders deserve access because they help the structure stand. Critics only want to see close enough to inspect what they never intended to strengthen. And when you stop feeding commentary, you finally hear what God has been saying beneath the noise. But when the noise gets quiet, do not only ask, why did they come into my life? Ask the deeper question, why did I give them access? That is where maturity begins. Immature people blame the door. Mature people examine the permission, because some people did not break into your life. You invited them. You fed them. You explained yourself to them. You gave them a chair in your emotions, a voice in your decisions, and a key to your confidence. Now, God is not only exposing them, He is exposing the part of you that agreed with them. Stop right there. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, so now this is my fault? No, that is not what I am saying. I am not saying you deserve betrayal. I am not saying you caused manipulation. I am not saying the wrong person is innocent. I am saying discernment is responsibility. You are not called to be paranoid. You are called to be awake. Paranoia suspects everybody. Discernment submits every access point to God. Paranoia lives in fear. Discernment walks in wisdom. Paranoia builds walls out of wounds. Discernment builds boundaries out of obedience. Wrong relationships often remain because they are connected to an old version of you that God is trying to deliver you from. They survive because something in the old you still recognizes them as normal. What in you needed their approval? What wound called that relationship familiar? What fear made you stay after peace left? What insecurity made disrespect feel acceptable? What loneliness made inconsistency look like love? What hunger made attention feel like assignment? These are not small questions. These are deliverance questions. Some relationships are not just connections, they are agreements. They agree with your old fear. They agree with your old rejection. They agree with your old need to perform. They agree with your old habit of shrinking so other people can remain comfortable. They agree with the version of you that God has already sentenced to death. And if you keep feeding relationships that agree with what God is killing, you will keep resurrecting what grace is trying to bury. You cannot become a new person while being discipled by people who only benefit from the old one. Let that sit in your spirit. You cannot walk into discipline with people who only like you undisciplined. You cannot walk into purity with people who only enjoyed your compromise. You cannot walk into focus with people who only valued your distraction. You cannot walk into obedience with people who only felt safe when you were confused. They are not grieving your growth because they love you. They are grieving your growth because your old dysfunction served them. Be careful with people who celebrate your weakness but feel threatened by your discipline. Be careful with people who love your availability but resent your boundaries. Be careful with people who enjoy your gift but ignore your growth. Be careful with people who call you humble when you shrink but call you proud when you obey God with confidence. Some people loved you better when you had no standards because your lack of standards gave them unrestricted access. The moment you became audit, they became offended. That offense is revealing. Do not waste it. When your boundary produces anger, it is showing you who benefited from your lack of one. When your obedience produces distance, it is showing you who was attached to your disobedience. When your growth makes someone uncomfortable, it is showing you that the relationship may have been built around your brokenness, not your destiny. Everybody who walked with the old you cannot walk with the healed you. Everybody who had access to your pain is not qualified to have access to your purpose. Prayer will show you that. Prayer does not only expose toxic people, prayer exposes toxic needs in you. The need to rescue everyone, the need to please everyone, the need to explain everything, the need to be accepted by people who cannot steward destiny, the need to prove you are kind by letting people violate your peace, the need to be needed so badly that you mistake burden for assignment. God will put his finger on the relationship, yes, but he will also put his finger on the appetite that made the relationship powerful. And that is where repentance begins. Not performance, not condemnation. Repentance. Repentance says, Lord, I agreed with something beneath my calling. Repentance says, I let fear choose what prayer should have got it. Repentance says, I betrayed my future for companionship. God may not be asking you to hate anyone. He may be asking you to stop making them an authority. He may not be asking you to despise them. He may be asking you to remove them from the place only obedience should occupy. Do not make an idol out of companionship. Loneliness is not permission to betray destiny. Being misunderstood is not permission to return to bondage. Missing them is not proof they belong in your future. Some withdrawals hurt because the old you is losing its agreement. Let it hurt and still obey. Let it feel unfamiliar and still move forward. Let your emotions cry, but do not let them drive. You are not abandoning people when you choose obedience. You are abandoning the false version of yourself that needed them to feel whole. So audit the agreement. Ask God, what part of me kept this alive? Ask him, what identity did this relationship feed? Ask him, what fear am I calling loyalty? Ask him, what wound am I calling love? Because once you see the agreement, you can break it, and once you break it, favor can flow without being contaminated by confusion. Favor is not favoritism. Favor is divine support for divine assignment. Favor is God putting weight behind what he has authorized. It is not God randomly blessing emotion. It is not God rewarding confusion because you cried long enough. It is not heaven endorsing every relationship you are afraid to release. Favor flows where order is restored because order creates room for God's support to operate without being wasted on disorder. God does not bless confusion for the sake of your feelings. He blesses alignment. He blesses obedience. He blesses stewardship. He blesses discipline access. Some of you are asking God for increase while keeping disorder in the place where increase must land. You want more favor, but you have not made room for more responsibility. You want open doors, but you keep dragging old voices into new rooms. You want divine acceleration, but your relationships are still negotiating with your obedience. Wrong relationships block favor in practical ways. They drain your energy. They delay your decisions. They distort your identity. They compete with your obedience. They keep you emotionally busy while your assignment waits for your attention. You cannot build effectively when your spirit is always recovering. You cannot discern accurately when your mind is always defending. You cannot move boldly when your emotions are chained to people who profit from your hesitation. What you call delay may have been disorder. What you call warfare may have been unauthorized access. What you call loyalty may have been fear. Stop spiritualizing what order would have solved. Sometimes the devil is not blocking the door. Sometimes you are carrying people God told you to leave outside. Sometimes the blessing is not late. The environment is not ready. Sometimes the oil is present, but the vessel is cracked by relationships that were never submitted to purpose. Separation often precedes elevation. Abraham had to leave familiar systems before he could walk into covenant territory. Joseph had to survive betrayal before he could carry governmental authority. Jesus loved many, but he managed levels of access. He had crowds, he had disciples, he had 3, and he had moments alone with the Father. Love did not cancel order. Compassion did not cancel boundaries. Purpose determined proximity. Do not let sentimental religion make you careless. God can love someone and still not assign them to your inner circle. God can forgive someone and still not return them to the same level of access. God can use your separation not to punish you, but to protect what is still forming in you. Some people are removed because they are evil. Others are removed because they are misplaced. A good person in the wrong place can still create disorder. You cannot drag old associations into new seasons and expect new favor to function cleanly. New favor requires new stewardship, and new stewardship requires new boundaries. The blessing you prayed for may demand the discipline you have avoided. The door you ask God to open may require you to stop answering every knock from your past. You cannot carry a new mantle with old agreements still wrapped around your emotions. So restore order. Put God back in the center. Put purpose back in authority. Put people in their proper place. Stop giving friendship the authority of covenant. Stop giving history the authority of destiny. Stop giving emotion the authority of discernment. Everybody cannot go where God is taking you, and that is not cruelty. That is stewardship. When relationships come into order, your strength returns. Your clarity returns. Your prayer life breathes again. Your decisions become cleaner. Your obedience becomes faster. You stop wasting oil on arguments that never produce fruit. You stop explaining your assignment to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop managing the reactions of people who were never assigned to carry the weight of your future. Favor flows more freely when your relationships agree with your assignment. Not because God is limited, but because you are finally aligned. The atmosphere is clean. The access is disciplined. The voices are submitted. The distractions are reduced. And now what God placed inside you has room to grow without being choked by confusion. So do not mourn every removal like a loss. Some removals are mercy. Some exits are protection. Some endings are God restoring order before He releases increase. Let Him rearrange the room. Let Him close the wrong door. Let Him silence the wrong voice. Let Him teach you that peace, order, and obedience are not small matters. They are the environment where favor can rest. And once order is restored, you must learn the next discipline. You must stop choosing people by feelings, history, chemistry, and familiarity. You must learn to choose people by fruit, because your future does not need familiar faces. It needs faithful fruit. And this is where many people miss it. They choose relationships by memory instead of maturity. They choose people because they were there, because they know the story, because they shared the old season, because they are familiar. But familiarity is not fruit. History is not always authority. Longevity is not always legitimacy. Somebody can know where you came from and still have no grace for where God has taken you. Do not choose people because they are familiar. Choose them because their fruit agrees with your future. Ask yourself, what do they produce in me? Do they produce peace, discipline, courage, honesty, obedience, humility, and clarity? Or do they produce confusion, compromise, fear, delay, pride, distraction, and emotional exhaustion? That is the filter. Stop judging relationships only by how they make you feel in the moment. Judge them by what they produce over time. Fruit is more trustworthy than charisma. Charisma can impress you. Fruit will inform you. Words can be performed, but patterns preach the truth. Anybody can say, I support you. Anybody can say, I love you. Anybody can say, I am praying for you. But watch the pattern. Do they support you when obedience reduces their access? Do they love you when your boundary interrupts their convenience? Do they pray for you? Or do they only want information about you? A tree does not need to give a speech to prove what it is. It simply produces. In the same way, people reveal themselves by consistent fruit, not one emotional apology, not one spiritual sentence, not one impressive moment. Consistent fruit. Do not be deceived by people who know kingdom language but carry disorderly lives. Do not be moved by people who can quote truth but cannot submit to it. A person's vocabulary may sound spiritual while their fruit is still dangerous. Ask the hard questions. Do they respect your no? Do they honor your growth? Do they correct you without trying to control you? Do they celebrate your obedience more than they celebrate their access to you? Do they have a life you can safely learn from? Do they make you more sensitive to God or more dependent on them? Do they strengthen your convictions or negotiate them down? These questions are not suspicion. These questions are stewardship. A destiny relationship does not flatter your weakness. It calls out your capacity. It does not keep you comfortable in dysfunction. It loves you enough to challenge the parts of you that are beneath your assignment. Right people will not always be easy, but they will be fruitful. They may confront you, they may stretch you, they may sharpen you, they may tell you, no, you are bigger than that. No, you cannot return to that. No, you cannot live beneath what God showed you. That is not rejection, that is refinement. But draining relationships do the opposite. They flatter what should be healed. They excuse what should be disciplined. They comfort what should be confronted. They make your weakness feel normal and your obedience feel extreme. Be careful when somebody only likes you when you are broken enough to need them. Be careful when somebody calls your growth distance because they can no longer control your availability. That is not love. That is appetite. Do not misunderstand me. Right people can correct you. Right people can disagree with you. Right people can challenge your timing, your attitude, your decisions, and your blind spots. But they will not pull you away from God's original purpose. They will not require you to sin to stay close. They will not make confusion the price of connection. They will not punish you for becoming disciplined. They will sharpen you without owning you. And stop choosing by history alone. Some of you are loyal to people God has already released you from because you feel guilty about outgrowing the level where you met them. Listen carefully. Someone can be familiar and still be unfit for the next season. They were right for the valley, but wrong for the mountain. They were right for survival, but wrong for stewardship. They were right for your pain, but wrong for your purpose. That does not make them evil. It makes the season complete. Discernment includes timing. Some people were right for a season, wrong for a level, and dangerous for a calling they refuse to respect. If they cannot honor what God is building in you now, they cannot be given the same access they had then. Access must be adjusted when assignment increases. You cannot give yesterday's relationships automatic authority over tomorrow's obedience. So examine the fruit. Not the memory, not the chemistry, not the laughter, not the shared struggle. Fruit. Does this connection make me cleaner? Does it make me stronger? Does it make me wiser? Does it make me more obedient? Does it make me more honest before God? If the answer is no, stop pretending confusion is loyalty. Your future needs people whose fruit agrees with your assignment. Builders, intercessors, truth tellers, steady hands, clean voices, people who can celebrate what God is doing without needing to control it. Choose slowly. Pray deeply. Watch consistently. Because after you know how to choose, you must have the courage to obey what prayer reveals. And this is where discernment must become obedience. Because discernment without obedience is spiritual information with no transformation. God can show you the fruit. God can disturb your peace. God can expose the pattern. God can confirm it through prayer, counsel, and repeated evidence. But if you refuse to act, you are not being discerning. You are being informed and disobedient. Stop collecting revelation you have no intention of obeying. Stop asking God to show you what He already showed you. Stop begging for confirmation when the fruit has been preaching for years. Some of you do not need another sign. You need courage. You do not need another dream. You need discipline. You do not need another conversation. You need obedience. Because the authority of your next season may require the courage to limit access in this one. Every serious assignment will require relational courage. Courage to say no. Courage to be misunderstood. Courage to disappoint people who are depending on your dysfunction. Courage to stop explaining growth to people committed to your limitation. You cannot carry divine authority while remaining emotionally controlled by human approval. If every boundary needs applause before you keep it, you are not ready for authority. Authority requires the ability to obey God when people do not clap. And hear me carefully. Some people will not understand your obedience because your obedience interrupts their access. They will call you distant. They will call you different. They will call you proud. They will say, you have changed. Yes. That is the point. Growth is supposed to change access. Healing is supposed to change appetite. Deliverance is supposed to change your circle. If your transformation does not disturb some relationships, you may still be managing the old agreement. Stop begging people to respect boundaries they benefit from breaking. Stop calling it love when it requires disobedience. Stop negotiating with what God told you to release. Stop trying to make peace with the thing that keeps stealing your peace. There are some relationships you cannot counsel into alignment, cry into alignment, explain into alignment, or sacrifice into alignment. If the pattern is rebellion against your purpose, your explanation will not deliver it. Obedience will. Do not misunderstand me. Separation is not always physical abandonment. Sometimes separation is emotional relocation. Sometimes it is reduced access. Sometimes it is changed expectations. Sometimes it is no longer giving someone the authority to define your mood, your decision, your confidence, or your obedience. You may still love them, but they cannot lead you. You may still pray for them, but they cannot direct you. You may still honor them, but they cannot occupy a seat God removed them from. That is maturity. Maturity knows the difference between love and access. Love can be generous, access must be governed. Love can forgive, access must be earned by fruit. Love can bless, access must submit to order. You are not bitter because you change the level of access. You are not cruel because you stop making your spirit available for confusion. Boundaries are not hatred. Boundaries are stewardship. But yes, it will cost you something. Obedience always does. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you familiar voices. It may cost you the feeling of being understood by people who knew the old version of you. It may cost you invitations, conversations, habits, and emotional dependencies you did not know had become chains. Do not panic when obedience gets quiet. Loneliness is not always emptiness. Sometimes loneliness is the quiet room where God restores your identity. Some of you are afraid of the silence after separation because you have mistaken noise for love. You think if the phone is not ringing, you are abandoned. You think if everybody is not checking on you, you are forgotten. No. Sometimes God removes the noise so you can hear instruction again. Sometimes He clears the room so healing can happen without interruption. Sometimes He lets the crowd thin out so right alignment can find you without competing with wrong access. When God removes noise, He is not leaving you alone. He is making you available. Available for prayer. Available for discipline. Available for clarity. Available for the right people. Available for the work you kept postponing because your emotions were busy managing disorder. Do not run back to confusion just because peace feels unfamiliar. Peace will feel strange when chaos has been your normal. Stay there. Let your spirit breathe. Let your mind settle. Let God teach you who you are without the old voices naming you. And do not perform your boundary. Do not turn obedience into a show. Do not announce every decision. Do not post every separation. Do not make healing a public spectacle. If God told you to step back quietly. If God told you to stop feeding the connection, stop feeding it quietly. If God told you to build silently. Let your fruit speak. Let your peace speak. Let your discipline speak. Let the outcome prove what your announcement could never protect. You want authority? Then obey when obedience costs access. You want clarity? Then stop entertaining confusion. You want your next season? Then stop giving your past a vote. There is a level of authority that only comes after you prove you can protect what God gave you. Not loudly, not proudly, not theatrically, quietly, firmly, consistently. Because access is not casual. Your circle is not casual. Your peace is not casual. Your calling is not casual. And now the teaching must become a declaration, because what you tolerate today becomes the environment of tomorrow. So hear me now. Guard the circle and you guard the calling. Guard the access and you guard the oil. Guard the voices and you guard the vision. This is not about becoming hard. This is about becoming holy in your stewardship. This is not about rejecting people. This is about refusing to let unauthorized people negotiate with divine instruction. Because when you guard your circle through prayer, you guard the calling God designed you to fulfill. Purpose must determine association. Prayer must guard access. Peace must confirm alignment. Counsel must be separated from commentary. Favor flows where order is restored. That is the progression. That is the pattern. That is the discipline. Your purpose is too specific to let your emotions choose your inner circle. Your assignment is too costly to let loneliness choose your company. Your destiny is too sacred to let familiarity override discernment. Pray before you choose. Watch the fruit. Protect your peace. Honor your assignment. Stop apologizing for boundaries. Stop explaining obedience to people committed to misunderstanding it. Stop giving destiny level access to casual level people. Everybody can love you from a distance, but everybody cannot speak into your decisions. Everybody can receive kindness, but everybody cannot receive keys. Everybody can be forgiven, but everybody cannot be restored to authority. Do not let guilt govern what prayer already revealed. Do not let history overrule fruit. Do not let emotion become your prophet. Do not let fear become your counselor. You were designed by God with intention, with assignment, with weight, with original purpose. And anything that consistently pulls you away from obedience is not qualified to guide you into destiny. Peace is not weakness. Boundaries are not pride. Discernment is not suspicion. Order is not rejection. Order is protection. And listen carefully. God is not trying to isolate you. He is trying to align you. He is not trying to make you lonely. He is trying to make you clean. He is not trying to strip your life of love. He is trying to bring you into relationships that can carry the weight of where He's taken you. Some people could handle your pain, but they cannot handle your purpose. Some people could handle your confusion, but they cannot handle your clarity. Some people can handle your weakness, but they cannot handle your authority. That is why the circle must change. Not because you are better than people, but because you are responsible for what God gave you. A seed cannot grow in every soil. Oil cannot be poured into every vessel. Vision cannot be trusted to every voice. If you keep placing sacred things in casual hands, do not be surprised when your spirit feels violated. Sacred things require sacred stewardship. So here is your challenge. This week, audit your closest influences. Not next year, not when things get worse. This week, ask, what is this relationship producing in my obedience? Ask, what is it producing in my peace? Ask, what is it producing in my discipline? Ask, what is it producing in my courage? If it is producing compromise, call it what it is. If it is producing confusion, call it what it is. If it is producing delay, call it what it is. If it is producing strength, honor it. If it is producing clarity, protect it. If it is producing obedience, value it. You need people who sharpen your discernment, not people who sedate your conviction. You need people who push you toward God, not people who pull you back into appetite. You need builders, intercessors, truth tellers, disciplined voices, steady hands. You need people who can celebrate your obedience even when it limits their access. That is fruit. That is maturity. That is alignment. And I want you to make a declaration, not a performance, a declaration. Write it down. Speak it out. Put it in the comments as an agreement with the truth you are choosing to live. Say, I choose purpose over proximity. Say, I will pray before I give access. Say, my circle will agree with my calling. Say it until your emotions submit to it. Say it until your choices reflect it. Say it until your life stops contradicting your conviction. And if this teaching helped you recognize the value of your calling, stay connected to words that sharpen your discernment. Share it with someone who is learning to protect their purpose. Continue building a life that agrees with God's original design. Do not just be inspired. Be changed. Do not just nod your head. Make the decision. Do not just feel conviction. Obey it. Wrong people can delay right purpose, but one obedient decision can restore order. One boundary can bring peace back. One act of courage can break an old agreement. One prayer can close a wrong door and prepare you for the right one. Start right now. Start with prayer. Start with courage. Start with what God already showed you. Let your relationships come into agreement with your destiny. Let your circle serve your calling. Let your peace become protected. Let your obedience become visible. And let your life prove that when God gives a person purpose, access must be governed by assignment.